First, it's terrific to have the full board here in person. For those that are tuned in, we had a study session last Friday, and that was the first time that as a board we've been all together in person since the beginning of the pandemic. And so it's tremendous to have everybody back together tonight, and we're socially distanced and handling it the right way. Just a quick follow-up to our study session on Friday. President Ritchie indicated that he received a survey that Blaine Finley had been working with Sherry Hyder and Qualtrics. This will be first an internal survey that allows our teachers and school staff, all employees, to have some input right now in terms of the bond related to projects, growth, replacement buildings, tax rates, just a few things. If you've had a chance to go over it, that'll be helpful.
I got it.
Anybody else get it, board?
Great. Again, this is great feedback for us. I'm going to reiterate for the record that the board has not decided to go out for a bond in November. They haven't decided on what projects. The coming weeks, just great opportunity for us to begin receiving feedback. And of course, in addition to those internal surveys that we're working with Qualtrics on, Y2 Analytics will begin conducting surveys and focus groups. All of that will lead toward some information coming to the board for our June board meeting that will just be most helpful. After that internal survey is complete with our employees, we'll put it on our website and Facebook and so forth, and invite our parents to contribute and give us feedback. So anyway, board, we have 2 or 3 things on our soup and salad agenda, and I'd like to start with our Executive Director of Elementary Schools, Cammie Alexander, who just gave a little information tonight on a level 1 boundary adjustment that's needed in our school district that impacts Far West, Silver Ridge, Plain City. So, Cammie.
Thank you, Superintendent, Board. Appreciate the opportunity to bring this information to you. Quickly, our boundaries in the Northwest are changing. We have lots of homes being built, and Brian Anderson, who's on with us somewhere, Brian, Heather, and Kurt are all on with us, but we met together to discuss an area of concern. So if you want to go to that next one. It was a level 1 boundary, so according to policy, I received permission from the superintendent to open up a boundary study. We involved all of the people that were necessary for that decision to be made, including transportation. And then pending the superintendent's approval, we want to move forward. So this is the little area in yellow that we're talking about. When we created the boundary between Far West and Silver Ridge, there weren't any homes there. It was just property. And now homes are being built. So, Trent, if you want to go to the next one. This is a subdivision that's going in. And if you can see, the black line represents our current boundary between Silver Ridge and Far West. You can see by this diagram and layout that goes right through the houses of some that are being built. So we met to discuss what kind of impact moving those or changing those would have on either school. Far West currently has about 800 students. It's already that big again. Silver Ridge, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, has about 560. So we felt like we could send more Silver Ridge way, but also if you look at that, should I move? Okay. So if you look at on the left there, there's a little loop. Those houses are already there, and those students already attend Far West. So we felt like we needed to keep at least part of that subdivision in Far West. And what we ended up doing is deciding to move the boundary just a little bit lower so it cuts through the backyards of some neighbors. Because the people north of that all attend Silver Ridge. So there's a development right above that that already attends Silver Ridge. They're already neighbors. And we didn't want to cut houses in half in front in a street. Then we've got what you see on the right-hand side. Those are homes that are being built against that canal that runs through there. And we felt like those 5 houses in the upper right corner, we just work with them. We'll cut the boundary straight across, but we'll work with those families because we don't know how the people on the corner interact with the people on the opposite corner. So we just thought it's best to just cut it straight across. We'll work with those 5 families about where they want to go to school and we'll make it happen. So then while we were talking, that particular plot of land did not actually cause us to move anything for Plain City. But in our next segment, if you want to go there, this particular plot of land is right near Far West. You can see the S curve in the bottom right. That's the S curve that goes to 2700 North. That development is in Far West boundaries, part of it. So if you want to go to the next one, if you can see the black line. If that black line were to go all the way across, that would be Far West current boundaries. We were a little concerned about the kids in the bottom right-hand corner. Once that's developed, those kiddos would have to cross a canal and walk along a very scary parcel of land. And that road is, it's, there's a twist there, there's a turn, it's high speed. And so we looked at that and we thought, well, since their neighbors to the west are already going to Plain City, we will put that little piece of land also with Plain City, and then those children can be bused and we don't have a walking accident waiting to happen. So, I think that's it, isn't it? So, just tiny proposals, but making a big impact down the road, and I think with both of these proposals, our 3 schools can handle the kids that are being sent their way. Are there any questions for me? Okay, so tonight at board meeting, Jeff has asked me, superintendent, has asked me if I would just quickly run through this and get it on the record. It doesn't require board approval, but we would like the public to know what we're doing. So those are our 2 proposals for level 1 boundaries.
Thank you, Cammie. Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
If we change that, what would be the numbers of the schools?
We don't know for sure because no one lives there yet.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. It's very hard to figure out how many kids are going to come from those areas. The houses that are being built there are a little bit larger right now. The corner is actually being looked at, unless it's annexed into Far West City, it's actually being looked at for multiple housing dwelling. So not individual houses.
Is that Plain City?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. About Far West.
So right now it's unincorporated Weber County.
Yeah, Plain City, maybe, Far West.
And so if it stays that way, those could be apartments or townhomes. But if it's annexed into Far West, Mayor Dickamore has already said it will not be apartments and townhomes.
I heard that too from the planning chair.
yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thanks, Cammie. I think the proactive stance on this is so beneficial, because if you delay until families are in and they're settled in one school, and then, you know, boundary adjustment is required, you know, that's just tough. So I appreciate Cammie, as well as Brian, Heather, Kurt, your proactive stance on this. And again, that's why there's no, according to our policy, no need for a board vote on this, because right now, there are no students, there are no families, it's just projected development. So that's the,
Yes.
21-22 school year?
Yes. Well, right now, actually. It would happen right now. We'll make those adjustments right now.
But when you mentioned the kids, you're already in discussion with those couple of homes on where they wanna go, I'm sure.
The little circle area
Yeah.
that I showed you,
Yeah.
we're leaving them put.
Okay.
So we didn't feel the need to talk to them because nothing's going to change for them.
But you mentioned that there was a couple in the household that you said we'd give them the option either
Oh,
way.
yes.
The upper-
They have not been built yet, but
Oh,
they're not
they're
built.
right on the border, and so we want to be able to meet their needs.
I was hoping it wasn't the red one.
Okay,
The lower bar.
thank you.
great, thanks. Board, we're close to the end of the legislature. The legislative session ends this Friday, and I thought maybe I'd just give a very brief update on a couple of things, even though, Janice, you know better than anybody, a lot can change in 48 hours as well. But it's been a good session. There's a lot of bills that impact public education, and some we have some concerns about. We've been working with legislators and sponsors and toward amendments and so forth. But let me just share a couple of quick thoughts, and if you have any questions, I'll do the best I can to answer them. I'll start with Senate Bill 1, which is the base budget. I've shared this before, but this was a unique year in the sense that executive appropriations met, and that's the leadership. Essentially, they had met in December, about 4 weeks before the session even began, and really put the foundation of the public education budget together. And that is unprecedented. That was just a remarkable thing. That included a 6% increase on the weighted pupil unit. It included the teacher bonus, $1,500 for teachers and $1,000 for school staff members. In Senate Bill 1, in that base budget bill, it makes it very clear who is to receive that and who isn't to receive that. And primarily, it is school-based individuals. Those that are in schools that are working with students. And it makes it clear who's not to receive it. And that's district office people. And, you know, I've had some people express some concerns about that, but that is the legislative intent, and that's the way we're going to proceed. That wasn't a district decision, and, you know, that's legislative leadership. And I think that there has been so much gratitude for public education coming back with in-person instruction. And that is reflected not only in the bonus, but the 6% increase on the weighted pupil unit. The economy, I think, has performed, generally speaking, better than anybody ever anticipated. There's no question that there are certain sectors of the economy that have been hit hard by the pandemic. But overall, the economy is performing better than anybody anticipated 6 months ago. And legislators have voiced to me that they acknowledge that the economy would not have performed at the level that it's performing had we not opened our schools and had children in school with in-person instruction. And they're very grateful for that. And I think Senate Bill 1 and some of the things that are included in there are a reflection of that. Many districts saw an enrollment drop this year. And, that's reflective of some families being concerned about having their children return to in-person instruction. Our district, the enrollment drop was just over 1%, just over 1%. But there are some districts that saw a much more significant decrease in enrollment. However, in Senate Bill 1, they're going to hold all districts harmless this year and base funding on 2019-2020 enrollment data rather than this year. That's a positive because we're confident that those students, and many of them have returned, that those students would return next year. That's the year normally that we would see the impact to our budget. And so we'd have students coming back, but not the revenue to support, keeping class sizes where we want to keep our class sizes. So there's a hold harmless on enrollment for all districts. That is very positive. Not in Senate Bill 1, but in another bill, and I'm forgetting the number right now, there's a hold harmless on transportation. Even transportation, our busing, will be held harmless, and enrollment will be established around 2019-2020 data instead of this year. So, there's been so many ways that the legislature has been tremendous to public education this year. And, publicly, I acknowledge their work, the commitment that leadership has had to funding public ed. They've been terrific. A couple of bills I just bring to your attention. There's one, House Bill 428, that is a concern. And I've spoken with the bill sponsor. He's a tremendous friend of public education. This is a bill essentially that can initiate a process for citizens to appeal a decision by a school board. And I believe that the focus of the bill is directed around a school district, for example, that may not have provided in-person instruction options this year. And there are those in the legislature that don't want to see something like that happen again. And so this bill was created really to address that. The way it was initially written, I think it was even more open than that. And the bill sponsor has worked hard to try to close that and really narrow what could be appealed. And that's a positive. We appreciate that work. I have shared with the sponsor that my fundamental disagreement with the bill is that it seems to work against a basic tenet of representative democracy. And that is that a relatively small group of citizens could initiate a process that would overturn elected officials' decision and turn that to an appointed panel. And, that's a concern to me. I think that doesn't reflect what a representative democracy really entails. That's House Bill 428 is going through a number of amendments. There's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of opposition from the School Boards Association, from the Superintendents Association. They understand, the legislators understand our concern. And so that's just one to watch over the coming days. There's a couple of bills coming out of the Senate around property tax. Senate Bill 18 modifies some exemptions to property tax. And anytime you add to that list of what can be exempted from property tax, it takes away revenue from school districts, because that is a primary revenue source for public ed. Senate Bill 52 is a property tax deferral that in some ways can be considered like a reverse mortgage. That's one that doesn't exempt property tax, it just defers it for, and it could be years. And then at the end of, when that person has passed away, then the tax bill comes due. We have opposed both of those bills. However, both of those bills have moved past the Senate and they're in the House, and there seems to be some support for that, but we'll continue to work with legislators. There was a Senate Bill 91, sponsored by Senator Fillmore, that was on school accountability, that would permanently remove the letter grade on school accountability. And we supported that bill, but it doesn't look like that's going to be successful. However, there is a bill that will once again make it where this year there would not be a letter grade for schools. Just to make it clear, we have been very supportive of the concept of school accountability and recommended that that be reflected in that dashboard. And we've said, you put any data point on that dashboard that you want. We're not afraid of accountability. You put attendance rate, graduation, AP enrollment, AP pass rates. You put any data point you want on that dashboard. That letter grade is just such a simplistic generalization. You think about a comprehensive high school and the number of things that are happening in a comprehensive high school, and to try to summarize all of that by one simplistic letter grade is just not productive, not effective. And those that promote that support that, often say, that dashboard's too complex. And I just think that is selling parents short. Parents can look at a dashboard and understand every one of those data points, what it means. And so, it looks like, again, this year there wouldn't be a letter grade. That bill will be successful, I think. But the one to permanently remove them doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere. Then there's another one we've been working with, Senate Bill 131, that I kind of thought was breathing its last breath. And about 11:30 today, it was pulled out of rules without a vote and put on a third reading in the House. And so rules were suspended for it. Senate Bill 131 really, and there's been some amendments, but the way it began was really beginning to take school construction processes away from local school boards and placing it more under the State Division of Facilities and Construction Management, the FCM. And, the problem that we have with that, and I'm talking about statewide school boards and superintendents, is this is local money that generates from a local bond election. You think about the process that we've gone through in 2017 or 2012 and previous bonds. We are so transparent with taxpayers in terms of these are the facilities that you'd be getting. these are the costs associated with those facilities. And to have the state step in and have local school boards then overridden by DFCM just doesn't seem right. Now, through amendments that have happened, a lot of that has been pulled back. There'd be some requirements, and again, a lot can happen in the next 48 hours, but there'd be some requirements where the state could develop some model model plans for schools, where there'd be some reports that would be required, sent to not only the state office, but also to DFCM around construction costs and design plans and so forth. So it's gotten a little better where it doesn't feel, even if it passes, it doesn't feel as though DFCM would be overseeing our construction process the way maybe it was originally, the bill was originally written. But still, you know, I firmly believe that school construction is a local process because that money is coming from local dollars. It's not coming from state dollars. You know, if the state was kicking in money to public schools the way they're kicking money for higher ed buildings, hey, I'd understand that they'd say, hey, we want some say in this. But anyway, that's been kind of the pushback on Senate Bill 131. Are there any questions? You know, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of bills that impact public ed. I'm not going to go through all those tonight. I tried to pick a couple that may be of interest to you. We keep monitoring very carefully and always look forward to midnight of that final night.
Jeff, this bill with the DFCM, does it look like it's some traction in that?
If you would have asked me this morning, I would have said it's breathed its last breath. And at 11:30, it was pulled out of rules without a vote, didn't get assigned to a committee. So normally the process is it goes into, this is a Senate bill, so it works its way through the Senate, and it passed. That didn't surprise me. And then it went to the House, and it sat in House rules. And the process is it stays in rules until they approve it and assign it to a committee. Well, this has been assigned to a committee. And so I thought, you know, again, Janice knows this, sometimes rules is a place that bills go to die. And it had been sitting in rules for a long time. And then today it was lifted out of rules, not assigned to a committee, placed on a third reading in the House. And so somebody wanted it out. And it came out. Right now it's circled, which means it's just kind of on hold. So, you know, I haven't talked to anybody today on it, but something obviously happened. Because if you'd asked me that question this morning, I'd have said that bill's pretty much dead.
Sounds like we need to watch it though, because that's a concern of mine as well.
That's a huge concern.
DFCM can't even do the projects that we got going out of our office now, let alone at our schools.
You've worked with them too.
And if there's a positive, again, there's
That's why I looked at you.
they've removed the latest amendment, the latest substitute on the bill has removed DFCM from overseeing it. We would still need to send some reports to them, but they wouldn't oversee it. But still, it's a bill that is concerning to me, and it's around some principle. You know, that principle is that that's local money. Right.
If that appeal, when do we know what the numbers are, how small the group?
It's a panel of 5 people, and Doug had asked on the House Bill 428, that bill that would permit an appeal process to be initiated. It's a panel of 5 people, and it would be one person appointed by the President of the Senate, one person appointed by the Speaker of the House, one person appointed by the State Superintendent, one person appointed by the Superintendent's Association, and Doug, I'm forgetting who the 5th person is, but it would be a panel of 5 appointed persons, and I believe those 5 appointed persons would actually serve for a period of 2 to 4 years. So it wouldn't be a new panel each time an issue was appealed. Another part of that is that there would have to be a certain percentage of parents that signed a petition.
That was my question.
Yes.
Petition.
And in a district our size, it would be 4%. So, we're 33,000. We'd need a petition of 4% of those parents. And again, it would have to be an issue that fell under that category. Let me just tell you what it is right now very quickly. On line 141 of that bill, number 1, it says it was a decision that required the majority vote of this board. And on line 142 to about 145, it has to be an issue that, and I'm quoting now, creates a substantial risk of immediate harm to the student's ability to learn and progress according to state standards. So they would have to be able to demonstrate that whatever decision was being appealed was something that created a substantial risk of immediate harm to the student's ability to learn and progress in terms of state academic standards. So think of the number of things that would eliminate. If somebody said, "Hey, I don't like the school mascot that was decided on," or that's probably going to fall short of that. That doesn't present an immediate risk to the harm or harming a student's ability to learn, right? So what the sponsor has tried to do is narrow as much as possible what could be appealed. And I'm going to restate, the target was really around not reopening for in-person instruction. That's the target.
Gotcha. Because in essence, we have a panel that's appointed by the voters every 2 years. We already have the system.
Yeah.
That 4% could be about 1,300.
Yes, it'd be in the neighborhood of 1,300 signatures required. But that's a relatively small percentage of parents and that's what I said. That's my fundamental disagreement with the bill, is that tenet of representative democracy, that you now have elected officials whose decision could be overturned by a relatively small number of citizens, and then the decision is moved from elected officials to an appointed panel. That's a problem to me.
Recently, we changed basically math and how it was taught to the kids. Because I had quite a few parents ask me about it, why we were doing that and all that kind of stuff. Is that an example of something that
No.
go to that board?
No. And one of the reasons why, Dean, line 141 is it required a majority vote of the board. So that was an informative piece that came to the board based on changes in state math standards, and we are just reporting to you our teaching of the state math standards. So the adoption of those state math standards, which really dictated all of that, was not made by this board. Therefore, there was no majority vote required by this board, so that's not a decision that could be appealed. Great question.
6 minutes before.
Just,
Stand up, take a
this
break.
last thing I'll mention is, we've got the interlocal agreement, as you know, to be finalized with Washington Terrace, and I think our questions were answered last month in our soup and salad, our study session. But if anybody has a question relative to that. I spoke with Washington Terrace officials, and they asked if I felt like they needed to be here. We've given them a link. They'll join us virtually, but I didn't think they needed to be here. So anyway, that's all I have, President.
Thank you, board. With that said, we've got 6 minutes if you'd like to take a pit stop. Jan?